Well, welcome back everybody. I'm back on the KL. I've put about 133 miles on it since the engine rebuild. And I figured, well, it's about time to go ahead and check the timing, check the valve lash, and also check the cam chain tension. So it's pretty early in the morning. It's about 4:28 in the morning. I couldn't sleep anymore, so I thought, well, might as well get to work, do something. So we're going to, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the ignition timing. And we have to turn this over until the F mark down here reaches this embossed section of the case. But the first thing we have to do is we have to watch the intake valve. We're going to turn this over counterclockwise. We're going to watch that intake valve and it just come up. Well, I'll go all the way around again. See, I'm going to keep going around and around counterclockwise. And I'm going to watch that intake valve. Once that intake valve moves, like there, it's going down. Got to keep going. Okay, now the intake valve's all the way up. Now we need to look at this timing mark. Okay, we have to align the F with this embossed section right here. The F is what we're going to use for the timing. See, here's the F right there. It's coming around. And just a hair more. We want this perfect, so we want to get it right on the line. Just a touch more. Whoop, too much. You're not supposed to go the other direction. You're supposed to only go counterclockwise, but if I'm off just a touch, it's not going to matter that much. Okay, I think that's perfectly lined up now. The F is perfectly lined up with the embossed section. Okay, so now that we've got the timing mark lined up for ignition timing, first thing we need to do is follow this wire around under the tank, and then it connects under here. We need to disconnect that wire, this ignition wire right here. That's what the book says. And then we are supposed to connect 1 lead of our ohm meter to the point lead and 1 lead to ground. Find a good ground. There's a good frame ground down here. Okay, we're supposed to set, this is kind of an old meter, but it's supposed to set this meter on the lowest setting for ohms. Okay, so I'll try to set this where maybe you can see. Things don't want to sit up here on this too well. Alright, I'm going to hook the 1 lead from the points up to the 1 lead of my meter. I'm going to let it hang. And then I'm going to hook the ground lead up to my ground wire on my ohm meter. And let's see, what does it say? All right, set the ohm meter to the 1 ohm range, which on mine is I think 200 is the lowest range, but it'll read 1 ohm. And connect it across the points, 1 lead to the wire coming from the points or this to the spring leaf, and the other ohm meter lead to chassis ground. Make sure that both leads are securely connected. Loosen the contact breaker mounting plate screws, there's 2 of them, and turn the mounting plate using a screwdriver in the pry point so that the contacts are just at the point of opening. The point can be found by watching the ohm meter needle, which will flicker just when the points begin to open or close. Okay. So we need to loosen this mounting screws here. Oh boy. Try my new pliers out. I was at Harbor Freight the other day and these were on clearance. I can't remember the brand name of them, but it's the same brand name that I use on those clamps, welder clamps they have. And boy, I really like those. So I thought, you know, I think these pliers were $6, $7 maybe. So we'll try them out. Boy, I really had that tight. There we go. Well, they work good for that. Okay, so we'll make sure this is loosed enough where it'll turn. Okay, we're going to use this screw to be able to turn it with, I think. I think I did that the last time I set the timing. We should be pretty close. Now, let me loosen this up a little more. Okay, now it should turn easily. Okay. Let me get this meter where you can see, maybe. And that I can see. Then we need to turn this until the meter starts to flicker. Still turning, still turning. Whoop, right there. Looks like my timing was off. I go back up to make sure that that was the right spot. Okay. You see that? Okay, now I'm going to turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it, right there. Right there is where it flickers. So that is statically timed. So we'll lock these screws down. Give them a good snug so they don't slip on us. Okay. All right. So the timing part is finished. That was easy enough. And if you can see, my timing mark was off. I don't know if you can see those marks very well. Light sometimes helps, sometimes the glare makes it worse where you can't see anything. But my mark is off probably by about 1/16 of an inch. So my timing was off just a hair. So it's perfect now. So now we need to go over and adjust the valves. Okay, now we need to adjust the valves. So we need to set the timing mark down here to the T for top dead center, which is right there. The T is lined up with the embossed section. Now we're ready to set and adjust the valves if we need to. Okay, for the intake side, I want this set at 3 thousandths. So I'm going to check it with the 3 thousandths. You check it between the valve and the adjuster, and that's too tight. So I need to adjust it. We'll loosen the lock nut on it. And what I like to do is I'll set this underneath of it. Let me loosen the adjuster. You have to have a screwdriver on this one. It's going to be hard for you to see because I can't hardly see. But you have to loosen the adjuster and then slide this underneath of it like that. And actually, that feels pretty good. My method of adjusting valves is I do the go, no-go method. So you want the size you want, which mine is 3 thousandths or 0.08 millimeter. That's the minimum on the intake. And then it goes in pretty good. And if the next size up doesn't go in, that's the no-go. Then you got the adjustment correct. And that one doesn't go in. So what I do is I'll put this feeler gauge in here so it doesn't move. Get it in there. Well, I guess it already moved. I can't hardly get it in. Let me loosen this screw just a little bit. You're supposed to take the tank off, and I probably should, but I just didn't want to remove the seat and all that. And then just bring that adjuster down to where it just fits snug on there. Like that. That's got a nice little drag to it. Then you want to snug your lock nut. Now, a lot of times you're supposed to hold it with your screwdriver and then tighten your lock nut so it doesn't turn. Most of the time that won't turn once you have this feeler gauge in there and you have it set right. It doesn't easily move. Whoop. Okay, so let's tighten it. How tight do you get it? Well, you want to use a small wrench and you want to give it a tighten. You know what I mean? You don't want extra torque of a long wrench where you really crank on it. If you get it where you think it's good and tight, you don't want it coming loose. That's the worst thing that could happen if that comes loose. You do not want that coming loose. But you don't want to over tighten it either. That's just something you'll have to get the hang of. Okay, so this is my 3 thousandths. Fits nice. It has just a slight drag to it. So we'll try the 4 and it doesn't go. So the 3 thousandths goes. That's the perfect setting. And the 4 thousandths doesn't. So these are set perfectly. The intake valve is set perfectly. So we'll go ahead and put the cap back on since we're done with that. I haven't done any of this since I've rebuilt. I haven't checked anything. I've just been riding it. And it's been doing really good. I haven't had any issues. It used just a little bit of oil I had to top off after 133 miles. But that could be the initial effect of the ring seating in. We'll have to see how it does long term. But it's definitely better on oil usage already. And once I'm done with all this, I'm going to do another compression check. And we're going to see what kind of compression we got. You want to tighten these evenly because it's got an O-ring seal and you don't want to distort that O-ring by tightening one side and then bringing the other side down. You want to bring them both down at the same time. So it'll be flush and it'll seal. This is going to be on the exhaust valve. I hope the light doesn't fall. I try to get it in there where you could see. And on this one, I'm going to set this at 7 thousandths. This is the minimum for the exhaust as well. All right, it's loose. Try the 8 thousandths. Oh yeah, it's loose. We need to adjust this one as well. So we'll loosen the lock nut. This light's right in the way. I'm trying to get it to where you can see, but that light's right in my way. Does that help? Can you still see? I've done this on another bike one time. And the light, I was having such a problem with the light. And I put it in a spot where nobody can see, including myself. So I think you can see this. Okay. It moves now, so let's put this in here. I think I moved it too much. Loosen it just a little bit. Oh, that lock nut's still too tight. Okay. Now we'll set that in there, and then we'll just barely, lightly run that down. Don't put any pressure, just barely turn it. And now we can lock this down. Okay. Okay, it's got a nice drag to it. Let's try the next size bigger. The no-go. And it doesn't. Okay. Make sure I got that tight. Whoop. Yep, it's tight. And then we'll put our cap back on. And that'll complete the valve adjustment. That's not a hard thing to do either. And again, you want to go back and forth on this, tightening these. There we go. All right. Okay, one of the last things we need to do is check our timing chain adjustment. All right. Clean this oil off a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn the crankshaft counterclockwise, and we're going to watch that rod go in and out. Okay, now it's coming out. It was in. Now it's coming out. I think that's all the way out there, but let me go back around until I see it again. Okay, now it's going back in. I'll continue going around. And you continue going around until you see it go out to its farthest position and stops, which is right about there. Okay, so what we want is we want that rod flush with the end. So you want to loosen the jam nut. And then we'll want to run this in until that rod is right at the end, flush with the end. You don't want it sticking out. You don't want too much tension on that. You want just enough. Okay, that's flush. Okay, that's locked down. You want to make sure that's good and solid locked down too, because you do not want that slipping either. That would be very disastrous. Okay, so now we're going to turn the engine over. Just go around and around and watch that rod to make sure that rod doesn't stick out. It can come flush and that's it. We don't want it to stick out at all. And that's what it's doing. It's moving in and out with the slack of the chain, which is what it's supposed to do. But it's not sticking out at all. So we got that adjustment right. So we'll put our cover back on, our sealing cover. Wipe a little bit of oil off of it that was in it. We'll tighten this up. Okay. All right, so that's done. So we might as well go ahead and put our covers on. I've been working on a lot of different projects lately. I had a lot of work I did on my gold wing, and I still have a little bit more to do. I enjoy working on things. So it's kind of therapeutic for me, I guess. Okay. It's got an up on it. We'll put that to the up. Gotta make sure I tighten these. I'm sure I did, but I want to double check. All right. Okay. Well, the last thing we want to do, we don't want to forget, is we want to put our wire back together up here. Otherwise, it won't start. You'll be kicking it and kicking it and kicking it. What's wrong with this thing? What did I do? I think that's in there. That's another good reason to take the tank off. You know, if you're going to be doing this job, you could see this a lot better with the tank off of it. Okay, final thing we need to do is we need to check the compression. So we'll run this down. And for the final compression check, I'm just going to kick it until the compression quits building. So I'm going to hold the throttle wide open. The final compression is in. We got about 175, 177, something like that. So that's not perfect, but it's not bad. I think a brand new healthy engine, 195 is what they run. But almost 180 with a bike that's all these years old is pretty good. I mean, the cylinder did have some wear, which is going to cut down on the compression. So I'm happy with that. All right. Well, it's cold out. Do you want to see if it starts? Let's see what happens. All right, that'll do it for today's tune-up on the KL250. I'm pretty happy with everything. Timing is dead on now. My intake and exhaust valves, I had to adjust both. They're dead on. And the cam chain is tightened, and that's good. And our compression is pretty good. I mean, I have brand new bikes that the compression was less than that. So I'm happy with 100 and close to 180 foot-pounds. So the bike starts easily, it runs good. It's been a fun little project. The only thing I have left to do to this bike is I have fork seals, and I'm going to be removing the forks, changing the oil, and putting fork seals in it. Now, I do like a soft front fork because I'm probably not going to do any kind of like motocross riding with it. It'd be more like trail riding. So I may use ATF oil, transmission fluid, instead of fork oil. I haven't decided on that yet. I do have both, but I'll come to that bridge, cross that bridge when I come to it. Anyway, I appreciate you guys coming along, and if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. All right, well, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.